Welcome back to another episode of This Old Shop. Last time we were here, we got rid of our parts counter. Heck, we got rid of our whole parts room. And we did manage to get our first truck in the showroom, which was way faster than I thought it would be. Now we need to get rid of our office here, this extension to our office. And that's going to be a little more complicated than our parts room, which was pretty simple, because we need to take down that beam, which is repurposed from something else, I would imagine, because it's not straight, doesn't belong there. So we need to take it down, and we're going to add a little twist to it. We need to take it down without destroying the building, the equipment, or ourselves. So that might complicate things. We'll see how it's attached. We'll have to dig it out of here, and if anything goes right, we'll be able to unbolt it, lift it off, and everything will be good. Things rarely go right, so who knows what we're going to get into, but let's get into it right now. A little word of caution if you're thinking about a renovation like this. When you start removing existing exterior walls, you do run a risk of animals getting into the living space, and currently I have a bobcat loose in the office.
We have some conduit that used to run the lights in our little office extension here, so we're going to have to pull that out of there. We've got a box here. So we'll pull the cover off of here. We're going to check and make sure I turned the power off. I'm pretty sure I did, but it's always better to check. And that noise you hear in the background, that's the nail removing gnome. He's pulling all the nails out of all the wood we took out last time, so we can reuse it if we want to. We got our wires disconnected. And we can go ahead and disconnect our conduit from our box. Pull the conduit apart. The first piece is out. Shove the wires back through there, just to make sure that I don't get snagged up here. And we'll pull them out the rest of the way from underneath. Now we can remove our conduit from our box. Slide the conduit out of our joists here. Really likes it in there. I win. Now we're going to peel our wall here. We're going to do this the safe way, because the safety experts have already lost their mind after I drove the truck through the wall. We're going to take off all of our drywall so we can see any conduit that we have in here. I honestly don't know where it goes. I'm also looking for that $1 million that's stuffed in the wall, so if the video suddenly cuts out, you'll know I found it. And if it doesn't cut out, well, I'm still pulling. It's also very satisfying to peel drywall off the wall, because I don't like drywall. There's more paint holding it together than anything else. Now we need to remove our forbidden cotton candy. It has no flavor and it's kind of itchy. I'm actually going to save a few pieces of this. I have a place for it. I'm just pulling out enough of it to expose the conduit. I'm pretty sure it ends in this wall and came in from where our truck took it out the last time, but I want to be sure. Pull our outlets out of here. And unfortunately, I put it together from the other side. I can't get to the connectors. So since I removed the drywall, I get my screwdriver in there and loosen up the set screw. Pull the conduit out of there. Put our drywall removal tool to use again. Get to the set screw for this connector. Alright, now we can get to the set screw. They put plastic in here to complicate things for us. One piece of conduit out of there. Move the rest of this drywall. Might as well pull these set screws out of here. Not sure where this one goes. It's the only one in question. I think it might go to that box that we pulled the wires out of up in the ceiling before. Alright, everything's disconnected. I'm going to start pulling it all out of here. This one even has some wires. Pre-wired conduit. Pull this piece out. Knock this box out of here. Now we can get the rest of this conduit out of here. Now we'll clean up our mess and take it over to the pile. Now we can go ahead and grab the mobile frame rack, wall removal tool. Knock this wall out of here. We'll hit the bottom, knock the nails that are into the concrete out of there. Then we'll use the bucket at the top to knock the top off of our little beam up here. Our Bobcat has many uses. It's got a very full resume. Even took out a big chunk of drywall for us. Not as fast as the truck, but a little bit more precise. Now that I've made a huge mess. Okay, I'm not done yet. And now that I've made a huge mess, I'll clean that up and move on. I'm not totally sure why, but in this whole demolition process, I've managed to save all of the doors. So we're going to unbolt this one and save this one with all the others. Some of them already went in the dumpster, so I'm not sure why I took the time to save them. I could have drove through them. Maybe I felt this door in particular needed an honorable burial. It did survive a truck, multiple pieces of drywall being dropped on it, and a few joists. So it's a tough one. Now we're going to de-sealing our ceiling. Knock all the drywall off. I did upgrade my drywall removal tool from the 2x4 to the 2x6. And once we removed all the drywall and it's on the floor, all hands on deck to clean up the mess I made. I get to have all the fun because I'm paying all the bills. And the fun's not over yet. We have drywall on the walls. So we'll peel it off of here. Got a pretty big piece here. Porter and me says we could probably reuse that. Yeah, I don't think so. See if we can get this top piece off in one big piece. A wiggle and pull. We got some paint we could reuse. Then I realized there's a 3 or 4 inch strip there between the two pieces, held together with paint, of course. How much paint do you want on these walls? Yes, was the answer. A little wiggle and pull. Maybe we can get this top piece off in one big chunk. Or not. Get the paint off in one big piece. You thought I was kidding about the paint. It's ridiculously thick. Now we can pull our saran wrap off the wall. Not the Timu saran wrap. A little more of our paint, maybe even some drywall. Our last piece of drywall, and now our forbidden cotton candy. I won't be reusing this since we had a few residents living in this portion of our building. A lot of people pointed out that the gaps underneath the overhead doors and the side doors would allow rodents in, and I don't disagree with you. Unfortunately, Scott's wallet can only afford so many repairs at one time. So So we're going to do what we need to do to make more money to afford the, well, rest of the repairs. And yes, I am wearing gloves. It's actually not for the insulation. It didn't make me itch at all. The pizza girl was a different story. For me, it was more of a way to prevent slivers when I was handling all the wood that I was knocking out of there. Now that the cleanup crew has cleaned up the mess I made, I wrapped the chain around all of those studs. We're going to try and pull this wall out in one big piece.
That's not what I had in mind.
Well, that didn't go as planned, so what do? We improvise, we adapt, and we overcome. And no, before many of you ask again, I was not in the Army. Sometimes things just work. We're just going to pry our 2x4s off of here. Well, the roaming gnome's going to try to hammer it off and realize that I have found the most efficient way. And he's going to do it my way. There's reason I'm the boss. Enough grandstanding. I only know his way doesn't work as well as mine is because I've tried his way before. I found the best way possible. You know, he's taught me a lot, and part of being the boss is to listen to the people under you that are doing the job. Sometimes he has some great ideas that I haven't thought about, and I do listen to him, and that's the way we do things. But in this case, my way was better, and I didn't have to say anything, and he realized it, moved on. That's why we get along so well. Now back to the employee that always does things my way, Roberto Delgato. He's gonna remove our wall for us, or at least what's left of it. He knocked our 2x4 out of the concrete, which was the hard part. We pull these last two boards out of here, and our wall's out. Good thing I wasn't over in that corner. Wasn't wearing my hard hat. Now we gotta pull our joists out of here, and I'd like to use Roberto Delgato, but well, he's a little overzealous, maybe even violent. So we're gonna gently remove these. We'll just put our pry bar underneath, pull those toenails out of here. We'll use our joist removing face to slide that over. And the roaming gnome will take that over and start denailing. Our next one out of there, just twist it, pull the other side out, send it on to better places. Pull this one out the same way. No toenails on the other side. It was just stuck in between the I-beam. Slide this one underneath our conduit. Drop it down. Falls right out of there. With a little persuasion. We're going to keep going down the line. Trying each one out. Just one toenail from each side, so it'll come out pretty easily. Hand it off to the roaming gnome. We'll bend that one over. Pop it out of there. There's nothing but toenails holding that one in. However, this one, they decided they were going to bolt it to this I-beam up above. So we need to unbolt that. Then we can pry it over, pull our toenails out of there. And send it off to better places. This one just pried out of there. And now Roberto Delgato has now added scaffold to his long list of things on his resume. That's not the right hammer. Well, it works, so I guess it is. Next joist out of here. We're going to keep going down the line pretty much the same way. Once we have all of our joists out of here, we're going to go ahead and get rid of the next component holding our I-beam in here, which is this lintel that goes over our doorway. I'm just going to take a Sawzall and cut right down it. It overlaps just in this little portion here. Unfortunately, I did figure out that our I-beam is held to the support beams, not only by the nuts and bolts that were more than enough to hold it in, but it was welded in. So that means I'm not taking it apart up here. which means I have to take it out in one big piece. And it's pretty solid. Well, at least it thinks it is, but I have the wall removal tool. So we're gonna poke at the bottom, at least to break it loose from the concrete, which is only held in by a few nails. And hopes and prayers in the grand scheme of things. Once I got it to budge loose, it's a little scary. I don't want it to fall on anything important. And at this point I realize just how strong the wall removal tool really is, and it lifts up more wall than I planned. We'll break it loose. I'm not concerned about the interior walls. I'm trying to save that outside wall, so I need to pull it away from there. So we broke it loose from the interior walls. Now we're going to try to move it over. But at the same time, if I let the forks out from under it, I'm afraid it might fall. So we're just going to slide the forks over, see if we can't pull it away from that outside wall a little bit. Lift it up, slide it over. Now comes the sketchy part, letting it down without letting it slam down. Well, I must admit that went better than expected. I expected far more violence. That was anticlimactic. Square peg round hole. We are getting this boom out of here without removing some of our wall. And maybe our extension ladder. Don't worry, it survived. So did the compressor it fell on. Now I think we got enough room. We can get our I-beam out of here. Put some boards underneath it so I could grab it from the middle. And I'm just gonna kind of push it and drag it out of here, because I can't lift it. Of course, we immediately run into the support beam for the building. Move it over a little bit. We're going to have to drag it over to our far door because it's wider. Then we'll set it down and then just drag it out sideways. It won't fit through that first door, it's too tall. Now, a lot of you have asked for the bloopers reel time and time again, and I would love to give them to you, but unfortunately, when I do things, it's pretty much recorded when the work is being done, and I've pretty much thought things through. There aren't many bloopers. However, when I set this beam down and I got out a Bobcat, I stood on top of it and I looked at it and I said, what the F am I going to do with this thing? And after the roaming gnome finally caught his breath from laughing so hard, he said, you have to put that in the video. And I said, well, I wasn't recording and I can't duplicate it. It was just what was going through my head at the point. I really had no idea what I was going to do with this thing. So I kind of figured out this is what I was going to do with it. Drag it over here, set it down in front of the big door, pick it up from the side, drag it out the parking lot, and worry about it later. We'll probably end up cutting it up and throw it in the pile, but that's for another video, or another time. We got some rogue duct work here from our old office to pull out. Wiggle and pull. Now we got some rogue conduit that used to go to the office, but has no purpose in life anymore. We're going to break it down. Pull our conduit out of here, our boxes, and a few wires. There's one little section of conduit in our box here, so we'll pull that out. Now we can pull this switch cover off because I think this is where the conduit goes, but I can't be totally sure. Pull our switches out.
Bluetooth.
I think I figured out why that switch never did anything. Check and make sure we don't have any power. We're all good. Snippy snippy. Stuff our wires back up here. Knock our lock ring off. Nope, forgot a wire. We'll pull our wires out. Don't feel like getting a ladder, so we're going to do a little jumping. Now we're going to stuff everything back together because, ironically, I have the insurance coming out to inspect the building to see if they want to cover me. I really hope they didn't see my last video where I drove the truck through the wall.
We interrupt our destruction because our lights came in and I kind of want to get them up so I can see what I'm doing. So we're going to have to put some things back together before we continue destroying. So let's get that done, see what it looks like.
Before we put our lights up, we need to finish running our conduit down to our switches to appease all the electricians that don't like the way I'm doing things. So we got our double boxes up here, make sure they're level, screw them in, and now we're going to stuff our wires through our conduit. We already bent it. I cut that part out, but you get the idea. They wanted me to pretty much run all the conduit, but, well, there was a floor in the way before. And if I had waited till later, well, I'd be doing everything from a ladder instead of standing on solid ground. I chose the hybrid method. I ran all the part that we could do from standing on the mezzanine down to the wall, took out the floor, and then now we're running the rest of it. We left enough wire that we don't have to splice anything, and now we're just putting our conduit in. I drilled a hole in the top of that little flange there, just because I didn't want to bump it out around it. I feel it looks a little better this way. We'll join our two pieces of conduit together. Tighten everything up. Get a couple clamps in there. We'll tighten those up. We'll climb down our ladder for the most important part. Step back and admire our work. Looks pretty good for a car guy, if I do say so myself. I cut off the excess wire, wired it into our switch, put it in the box, and now we need to test it out. We'll test it a few times to make sure that the first time wasn't a fluke. We know our circuit's good, so we can go ahead and pull our temporary lights out of here and replace them with our permanent lights. We already had our eyelets bolted through our beams, so I used a quick link with the nut on it. We'll just slip that through the eyelet that's in the top of our light. Screw the nut down. We'll tighten it down with a wrench to manufacturer's specs. Click. And I threw a plug on the end of this harness. You can wire them straight in, which is what it was made for. I was planning on buying different ones that had a plug on them, so I just put the plug on this one. Make it easier. I already had the plug there, wired them up. We're going to do the same thing for this one. Not quite as easy because we're doing it from a ladder. The other one was at the edge of the room that we had taken down. Just a little pro tip from somebody who's not a pro. When you put the quick links on, make sure the nut screws down so that if it ever loosened up, it wouldn't work its way back up. It would just be loose and still holding on tight. And now we're going to go on to our next light. Same way, except this one's a little more complicated because we need to take down our old light. It's just on some hangers on that 2x4 that's actually bolted between the beams, and I'm just going to leave the 2x4 up there. And now you can see what we've done for the other three lights right here. We're standing on the portion of our mezzanine that we haven't taken down yet, so it's real easy for me to stand up here and do this and for the camera to see what I'm doing. Put our little eyelet on there, tighten it down to manufacturer specs. Click. There's a little harness that hangs off of it, and that's for a dimmer for these lights, which we aren't going to need. So we're going to stuff it back up here just so it's not dangling off the side. They do recommend putting a safety strap on these so that they don't like blow off of there and fall down. But with that eyelet on there, the only way this thing is falling down is if the whole building comes down, and I got more to worry about than just the light falling.
Thank you, and we now return you to your regularly scheduled program of destruction, now with better lighting.
We sent the monkey back up the ladder to use some of that extra wire we found in that conduit we removed to hold up some of the other conduit that we still need that's still attached to some of the building we're going to take down. So we're going to tie it to this beam in the ceiling, which I hope is going to stay there. We'll wrap it around this piece of conduit that's supported by this lintel that isn't going to be there for long, and we'll tie it up. We need to keep this conduit here because it's powering the lights for our showroom. We'll remove it later and move it around, but for right now, I want lights in the showroom, and I don't want to have to run out of the conduit before we put up our walls where they're going to stay permanently. Speaking of permanent walls, we're going to remove this, semi-permanent wall. I bet when they put it up, they thought it was permanent, but it's not, because I'm taking it down. There's a beam in there that we need. It's the one that holds our building up. So we're just going to peel out the rest of this wall around it, because we don't need it. If I get this wrong, the video is going to be real exciting when the building comes down around me. Sorry, it's going to be a little boring. I got it right. The wall removal tool did its work. Now we're going to use the secondary wall removal tool. It's a little more precise, not quite as efficient to take down the rest of it. We'll just leave this dangling conduit here to upset the electricians. Don't worry, safety experts, it's dead. Some of the fun of tearing apart an old building is finding things you didn't expect. I took this wall out, didn't expect to find that, well, this was exposed at one time. Those stickers wouldn't be there if this wasn't out in the open. So I'm guessing the wall used to be all the way across where we're putting it back. Now we're going to go ahead and remove our little dangling electrical box here before the electricians completely lose their mind. We'll use our lineman's hammer and our chisel. The tool experts are now losing their mind. I just call it what it's used for, whether it's the proper term or not. Pull our lock ring off of there. Pull our wires out of there. That's a little cleaner. Oh look, I got a raise. Back up to the second floor to knock this header off of our joist. We don't want to take down the whole room, even though the Bobcat tried. We can remove this last joist here. Toenailed in, so if we kind of fold it over, hopefully it comes out of there. Not the end of it, so we're just going to bend over the other joist, push down, and it'll pry itself out. Slide it down the wall. Of course, it gets snagged on all the many nails that are still left in it. Got some leftover wood up here, some forbidden cotton candy. Toss that on the ground. We got our other joist back here. Wiggle that out of there. Pry it over the other joist and pop it out. And send that down to the nail removing gnome. Now we'll use our reciprocating butter knife to go ahead and cut out the rest of what's left of this lintel. But its only purpose really is to hold up that conduit that we tied to the ceiling, so now it has no purpose. it's time to go. And for that, we're going to use our assault wall removal tool. Push it out of the way. Hopefully you can hook enough to drag it out of there. Get some of the wall out. And we just need to get the rest of it out. Put the door frame out. Not sure how far this lintel goes into the other wall. There is a doorway on the other side, so we did support it before I took it out of there. And I wanted to take the door frame, ended up taking the entire wall with. It's coming out anyway, so I guess it really doesn't matter. Kind of wanted to leave it in place. Well, there goes our door frame. Now, back to our lintel, and hopefully not our conduit.
The second portion of our office is completely gone, out of our way, but unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. Next time we come back, we're going to work on the rest of these offices. We have to be a little bit less destructive. Well, just as destructive, but we've got to be careful, because some of that we are saving, and we have to work around the HVAC. So subscribe if you want to see the rest of this demolition. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.